What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 82. My name is Victor Vasquez. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode where we talk through, break down a new film that I got to check out in theaters or streaming, and kind of just figure out what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, and then answer the question, is it timeless? Can I rewatch this film in the future? Super excited for this week's episode, but before I jump into that, did want to call out that the podcast is now on Spotify. If you like to listen to different podcasts and audio things, feel free to check it out on the Spotify platform. Search up Timeless Movie Podcast, and you'd be able to see that all episodes up to 81 have been uploaded. If you haven't checked out last week's episode, which was around Trap by M. Night Shyamalan, give it a listen. Again, I break down a little bit about what I thought about the film, the twist that occurred, and whether I liked it or not. So definitely take a listen if you haven't had a chance already. All right, awesome. Let's go ahead and dive in. For this week, we're covering the newest film and entry into the Alien franchise. That is right, we are going to be covering Alien Romulus. This one is directed by Fede Alvarez. It stars Kaylee Spaney, as well as David Johnson, and a slew of other characters as well. But I am super pumped to be talking about this one just because the first trailer that I saw about this one, throughout various movies that I've seen this year, the trailer has just been one of these top-notch trailers that just gets you immediately hooked. First of all, it takes place in space in a specific type of a spaceship. You have this kind of feeling and like eeriness about what the heck is going on. You have xenomorphs, you have different types of face huggers. This trailer had everything and it got me hooked. And what was so cool about it is that it looks so realistic. And that got me immediately to have this movie really on the top of my list in regards to things that I was really looking forward to. And so now we finally got a chance to check it out. We were able to kind of get a screening of this in Dolby Cinema. So let's go ahead and dive in. Overall thoughts of Alien Romulus. I thought this movie was freaking exhilarating. Everything about this film, it just connected with me. Whether it was the character interactions, whether it was the visuals that you were seeing on screen, the jump scares, there was just so much to like about this movie. I was just really impressed after I got out of the theater. The general synopsis of this film is basically, and just not to spoil too much about it, but just kind of give you a sense as to what is taking place in Alien Romulus. It basically takes place in regards to a specific mining colony called the Jackson Star. There's a group of individuals who are basically just trying to survive, try to get an opportunity and get a permit to get out of this mining colony and go to a planet called Ivaga, which is, has better living conditions. And what's even worse about the mining colony that they're in right now is there's no sun. There is completely 0 days in their year where there is a sun that ever comes up. So it's always dark. And so these group of individuals are just trying to find a way to get out of this planet. And as you would expect, that gives us the initial motivation as to what they're going to try to do in this film. And what their plan is to basically go scavenge a specific spaceship that is just kind of orbiting their planet where they're working out in this mining colony. And they're going to go in there, steal some of these cryo chambers that they can use in order to actually travel to the Ivaga planet. Now, the reason they need these cryo chambers is because of the fact that the trip from their mining colony, Jackson Star, all the way to the Ivaga planet actually takes, I think, about 6 to 8 years. I might have that wrong. I've only seen the film once, but it's a very long trip. And so they can't really just make it there in one long space ride. So they need to actually go into these cryo chambers, sleep, and then eventually wake up when they get to that Ivaga planet to eventually be free and have a better life. So that's the main inspiration. That's the main goal. And you have the story really revolve around these two characters. One is called Rain and the other one is Andy. Rain is played by Kaylee Spaney and Andy is played by David Johnson. So you have these two characters that are trying to, again, help as much as they can. Rain is actually very hesitant at the beginning to go on this mission. She doesn't want to risk it. She obviously, wants to get out and wants to have this freedom and a better life, but she's hesitant because of the fact that, she just doesn't want to risk it and hurt her adopted brother, Andy. And so, again, Rain and Andy are related, but the big call out that you see here is that Andy's actually a synthetic human. So he's almost like a artificial human and robot. And so, again, he is actually needed. He's the key to actually being able to get these cryo chambers because a synthetic human actually has the capability to access the mainframe of the specific salvageable ship that they're trying to get to. And the actual mainframe is actually called Mother, which is again a call out to some of the previous Alien films. And so the group of individuals need Andy, and Rain is again hesitant, but she ends up joining in because she cares a lot about Andy as well. And so they end up going on this specific mission. And as you can expect, when they get to this abandoned spacecraft, all hell breaks loose. As soon as this group encounters the different types of facehugger aliens, you eventually get to see them interact with these xenomorphs. You get to just see all the chaos and all the destruction that is in this ship, and you're just trying to see them survive. It is just nonstop action, a bunch of intense scenes. You know, just the music you can hear kind of swell up and add so much more emotion to these scenes. And not only that, not only are the interactions between these aliens and the characters so intense, there's even great interactions between the characters themselves, like Rain and Andy, you know, having to argue about why certain decisions were made to try to survive. And, you know, the thought of leaving people behind in order to protect yourself. A lot of great stuff and conversations are held in this part of the film as well. But overall, this movie was just fantastic for me. I freaking enjoyed it. Everything just kind of hit for me. I left the theater and I was just again blown away. I felt like again out of not an out of body experience, but more so I got taken out of the real world when I was in the theaters. And I just love when movies can do that, especially these types of sci-fi movies and these movies that take place kind of, you know, in different parts of our universe. And just again, it just makes it feel so out there that it's like, yeah, I could totally see like how this could happen, right? Or how this could be our future. But I think one other thing that added so much to this film was just how real it looked. Everything, the visual effects, the different types of settings, the props, the way that the ships looked, everything just looked incredible. So overall, I had such a fun time watching Alien Romulus. And I think this is a great segue into kind of going into a little bit more of the things that I liked. Let's go into some pros. I am going to spoil a couple of things. So again, spoiler warning for anybody that has not seen Alien Romulus. Please, you know, jump out of the video, watch the movie, come back, and then see if you agree with me on some of these pros that I have. But let's jump into the first pro. This film is just so damn visually stunning. Every detail that they were able to put in this film, the way that they kind of filmed the different types of space shots, the way that these characters were in the spaceship that they were in, everything just looked so realistic. What I love most is that these space stations and the hangars that they were in, everything felt like an actual place that you could visit, that you can touch. Nothing felt like it was a green screen. And I just love it when more films use practical types of effects and practical settings because I feel like it not only adds for the audience, but it also adds maybe even for the actors where they can actually see and touch and feel these things, and it maybe adds a little bit more to the performance. And so, again, to me, there obviously is some type of CGI effect or visual effect, but I couldn't see anything that kind of looked out of place. Even the xenomorphs, even the face huggers, even these creatures that are not real, they looked fantastic and scary, which is the key about this film. This film is definitely a thriller. It's very suspenseful. There's a couple of jump scares, and it just tries to keep you on the edge of your seat, just not knowing when these things are going to occur. And so being able to nail these types of aliens and xenomorphs was just incredible. Also, shout out to the way that they were able to film the asteroid belt. So, this mining colony that they're in, there was a lot of different shots when they were kind of in space trying to get to this abandoned spacecraft. And it looked like almost like the rings of Saturn. And as you got closer and closer to that rings and these asteroid belts, everything just looks so smooth and crisp. And it feels real. It feels like, man, is this what it really looks like that? You know, is it something that is that how the rings of Saturn actually have, you know, all these different types of asteroids? Is this how it looks really up close and personal? Again, I'd probably have to do my research. I didn't try to dive into like, yeah, how realistic is this? Is this how it's actually going to portray for the rings of Saturn? But again, just how it looks, it makes it look epic within the film, and it's just spot on. I loved it. Okay, another pro that I actually had was the unique situations that they put the characters in Alien Romulus that were actually different from some of the other Alien movies. Now, I have not seen all of the Alien franchise. I've seen the first Alien, I've seen the sequel, Aliens, I've seen Alien Covenant, and I think Prometheus. Those are the only films that I've seen. I know that there's a couple more. I couldn't tell you again where they fall in the timeline, so I just remember specific details and plot points. But this film, what I love most about it is it actually puts the characters in different situations that we haven't seen yet. And that's what I like about these different types of sequels that they make is that if you're going to make a sequel, that's totally fine. I'm down to watch it, but it has to have a good story and you got to do things that we have not seen before. And they were able to pull off some really good ones. One good example is, in the previous Alien movies, they've talked about how the xenomorphs have this acid blood. So even if you try to shoot them, even if you try to chop off their hand or something, their blood is so, acidic that it can burn through anything, through human skin, through steel, whatever it might be. So what they actually end up doing in a scene is that you have Rain and Andy trying to shoot and kill all these aliens, but what Rain ends up doing is actually turning off the gravity within the space station. That way they can actually navigate and kind of float through the air and avoid any of the acid blood that might be kind of goes just kind of roaming around in that room. It was such a cool and such a creative type of a concept that I freaking liked that one so much. There's also another scene where you have face huggers and the face huggers are in a room and Rain and Andy need to actually go through the room. So Andy actually recommends, well, let's go ahead and bump up the temperature. Let's make it to 98 degrees, which is the temperature of our human body. And the reason he does that is because the face huggers actually, they don't have any eyes. They're actually just doing it they're finding humans by sound and by their heat temperature. And so what they end up doing is basically turning up the heat as hot as possible to that, again, as close as body temperature. And they're able to kind of just quietly walk through the face huggers. It's just so cool. Again, something so different, something unique that we have not seen. It's just, again, really awesome how they were able to kind of play that off to sneak by those face huggers as well. And even, again, I'm not going to spoil too much, but they even introduced a new specimen. So we've seen face huggers, we've seen the xenomorph, but we actually get an introduction of an entirely new specimen that we have not seen in any other movie. I think Fede Alvarez, the director, and the team, the writers, everybody that created the concepts for this film, well done. It's just very awesome to see how, yes, we've seen a lot of different entries into the Alien franchise, but we still have these cool concepts, these cool ideas that we have not seen before that just add so much more to the lore, add so much more to this franchise. It just makes it exciting. So definitely want to call out that unique concept that they were able to add to Alien Romulus. Okay, third pro that I have is the relationship between Rain and Andy. So, right off the bat, they get you invested in this relationship. It's not a romantic relationship, it's a sibling relationship. And I think that's what makes it so unique and so cool as well, is that right from the beginning, you can see that. You're not told explicitly, but you can see that Andy, is just a little bit more innocent. He kind of is very curious looking around. And then you find out that Andy is actually a synthetic human, and so he has like a specific type of chip on the side of his neck. And Rain has to multiple times try to reboot him to kind of help him out if he gets injured or for whatever type of reason. But that relationship, just for me at least, I don't know how maybe other folks feel after watching the movie, and definitely let me know down below if you agree with me. But right from the beginning, I was just invested. I connected with these two. I didn't want anything to happen to these two. You can see that Rain wanted to do what's best for Andy. And Andy, his whole protocol, his whole directive was to do what's best for Rain. And he would try to do, again, at all costs, try to protect Rain in whatever situation they were in. Now, does it happen throughout the film? Well, you'd have to watch the film and see. There's obviously a lot of twists and turns, but their relationship together, where they start and where they end up, is just amazing. Again, I don't want to spoil too much, but I just really fell for that kind of sibling love that they had. And again, it just made me attach to these characters and made me enjoy the story even more as to, really find out what was going to happen to either character. Okay, last but not least, I have my final pro, which is the score and sound design. Like I've explained multiple times, I feel like the score if a film is very important, if it can add much more to make scenes either more intense, more dramatic, more funny, then it's done its job. And I feel like the score in Alien Romulus hit that note perfectly. Again, it just tried to add more to the horror that was going on screen. It tried to give you that feeling and give the audience a feeling of stress and tenseness that was occurring within that specific film, whether it was a character facing off against a xenomorph, whether they were trying to run and make a specific door that was about to close, whatever it was. The score just added so much to it, and I really enjoyed it. But I also have to call out the sound design of this film was also really good. There was a lot of situations where they would actually cut the music. There would be nothing, no score, no sound, as if you were in space. And when they did that, they didn't do it too often, but when they did, it added so much great detail. And again, it made you focus in on, well, what the heck is happening on screen, right? I'm not being overwhelmed by so much different types of things like the music, the action, a jump scare. It's just cut the music, cut the sound, focus on the character, and see what they're about to do or what they're about to escape from. And I think especially when sound design can nail it like that, when it just, again, you don't even need any sound or any music, and it still gives you the creeps about what's going to happen, then I think you did your job. So, really well done to the team on the sound design and the score for Alien Romulus. Okay, I think this is a great opportunity to kind of talk about some of my cons about the movie. I just have two, and I would consider them more nitpicks rather than actual cons that make me not like the film. So, jumping right in, first con that I would say is that early on, a little bit of the dialogue I just couldn't catch. The characters were talking very fast. This is, again, personal nitpick just on my side. My brother, I think, told me that he was able to catch up and really understand everything that they were saying. But for me, some of the dialogue at the beginning when they were in the mining colony, I couldn't keep up with some of the things that they were saying for certain characters. But again, didn't take me out of the film or didn't make me want to give this like a negative review in any way. And then the second nitpick that I had, which is more in regards to how they shot certain scenes in the movie. There are certain parts where the camera just stays with a certain character or characters, and it kind of just stays with them for a couple of seconds longer than it needs to. They could have cut those specific types of scenes. There was a couple that I've noticed, and then as I started thinking back after watching the movie, I started noticing, yeah, like why do they stay on this character for so long? Or after these two characters meet, after they haven't been together for a while, they kind of stick with both of them for maybe like 5, 10 seconds when maybe it could have just been something very quick. So once again, just small nitpicks. Neither of these things actually take me out of the movie. Overall, I still thought this movie was incredible. It kept me engaged. It kept me excited. I was just looking forward to the next thing that was going to happen. Who was going to basically get captured by a xenomorph and get killed? Who was going to be able to survive? That's what I was more focused on. So again, these nitpicks don't take my experience any lower than what I came out of the theater with. Now, let's go ahead and dive into some more cool stuff that I really enjoyed about this film. Let's talk about the best performances. Like I mentioned, Kaylee Spaney played Rain. She was the main protagonist, and her adopted brother, Andy, played by David Johnson. They were really the two main characters in this film. They both did a heck of a job to perform and to show the feeling of fear within this specific space station where they were in. But if I had to choose one, I'm going to choose David Johnson as Andy. The way that Andy just kind of evolved in this film is just incredible. So, like I mentioned, Andy is a synthetic human. So he's more of like a robot AI. And at the beginning of the film, he's innocent. He's like a young kid. He's curious about what's going on. He doesn't. Again, he tries to tell a lot of bad jokes because that's kind of how he was programmed. He was actually programmed by Rain's father, and he's very much like a immature type of a kid. But then at some point in the film, he actually gets his program updated and he completely changes. He becomes more sophisticated. His vocabulary becomes much more expanded. He starts kind of making these types of decisions that you wouldn't have expected Andy to make. And he just completely does a 180 on his entire character. And I thought that was so awesome. And then at the end, he comes back to being the Andy that we saw at the beginning of the film. And again, just being able to, as an actor, I think it would be super fun to not only have to play the same kind of character, but in this case, David Johnson had to play, two versions of Andy, right? And I thought that was just so well done. anytime Andy interacted with Rain or any of the other characters, again, it was so fun to see and how he was able to play off of them. All right, moving on to my favorite moment. I would have to say, and I kind of teased this a little bit before, but my favorite moment and scene was actually when Rain turns on the anti gravity option and she basically ends up killing all these xenomorphs. And then after she kills them, their blood is just floating in this room with no gravity. And Rain and Andy basically have to float and maneuver around to try to get away from this acid blood so it doesn't kill them. Again, so unique of a concept. I thought while watching it, I thought it was so creative. I was like, that's so smart. Like, what would you do like that if there was acid blood? And again, they put that situation there because they, everybody immediately thinks, well, if I have a gun, I'm just gonna kill all these aliens. But it's like, but no, you can't, because their acid blood would basically fall on the floor, it would go through the ship, and then eventually hit the engines and destroy the ship. And so they immediately put a way of like, okay, well, how are you gonna get out of this? And they find a way through gravity to kind of go through and escape the acid blood. It was just incredible, so unique, and I had to call that out as my favorite moment because I was just blown away by how they were able to come up with such a great idea. All right, last but not least, my favorite shot or still of the film. I gotta say that my favorite shot, there's again a lot of them, but I think anytime they would highlight space, anytime they would show the asteroid belt and the abandoned spacecraft that was about to crash into the asteroid belt, anything of that nature, it just looked epic and beautiful. I freaking loved anytime they showed those types of shots because again, and I'm a big space guy. I love anything around space. So I loved it when they highlighted the asteroid belt. You see the ship getting closer and closer to it, all this different stuff. And if I had to do like maybe another shot like in the space station, there's a specific shot where you have Andy open a door and you see all the face huggers that are just waiting for them to kind of go through the room. And there's a cool shot where you kind of get a camera behind Rain, and then you see those face huggers, and you just gotta get Rain's perspective as to what she is witnessing in that room. Really cool stuff. So those would be kind of like my favorite shots of the movie, but I think I would still choose these space ones as well. All right, everybody. Those are really my overall thoughts and my breakdown of Alien Romulus. If I had to choose in regards to giving a recommendation, I would say that I would highly recommend everybody go watch this in theaters. Don't wait for it for streaming. This is a movie that you have to watch in the cinema just because again, there's a lot of jump scares. It's a very much a thrilling experience. So I feel like the theater is a perfect place to watch this. Definitely go check it out. It is an awesome movie. Now, for those that have checked it out, let me know down below. What did you think about Alien Romulus? Do you think it is a thrilling adventure like that? Did you have a great time? Or maybe you disagree. Maybe you're like, maybe the other Alien movies did it better. Let me know down below in the comments. All right, everybody. This is the final segment here of the Timeless Movie Podcast. This is where we're going to decide whether Alien Romulus is a timeless movie. In my opinion, as of right now of recording this, I will say that Alien Romulus is a timeless movie. Now, I will say, and I'll throw in a little caveat, that I didn't watch any of the previous Alien movies recently. So I have seen some of the previous, entries, but nothing that, again, I could completely tell you, like, from beginning to end, here's what happened in this one, here's what happened in this one. I remember bits and pieces of them. And I went into this again, kind of thinking of this as a standalone movie. And I think that's what makes me want to say that this is timeless. This is something that I can definitely rewatch. It has elements and it has a lot of inspiration from the other Alien movies. But it's not a direct sequel to anything. It fits in the timeline, I think, between, Alien and Aliens, so the first and second film. But again, it's completely different characters. It's a completely different situation. And I think that's what made me add so much to my experience of really loving this movie. Again, everything just hit for me. All the jump scares, all the different types of character interactions that Rain and Andy end up facing, the visuals, the practical effects, everything, the music, everything just hit. And it was a great time at the theaters. If you have a chance, check it out in Dolby Cinema. Just the sound rumbles your chair. The visuals and the colors that they were able to kind of highlight in the film just look incredible and they pop really well. But again, I think I can definitely see myself rewatching this movie and just if I want to watch something thrilling and exciting and want to see like all the different types of, unique situations that the characters get into, I would definitely want to watch this one again. Now, I'm not going to rank any of them against the other Alien movies again because I haven't really, in the recent past, watched all of them and kind of really sat down and focused in on them. Maybe after I watch some of the other Alien movies, maybe my ranking might change. Maybe I might say, oh, actually, maybe this looks more like the first Alien or the second Alien. But again, as of today, just on this standalone experience, I would definitely add Alien Romulus to my timeless list, as it is a film that I can definitely see myself sit down and watch again and again. So, guys, let me know down below. What are your thoughts? Let me know everything you thought about Alien Romulus. Who was your favorite character? Whether you thought it was timeless, and what was your favorite scene as well? Definitely want to interact with you guys. All right, everybody. I appreciate you guys sticking all the way through to listen to my thoughts about Alien Romulus. My name is Victor Vasquez. This has been episode number 82 of the Timeless Movie Podcast. Make sure to check out next week as we cover a new film and we try to decide whether it is timeless after one viewing. All right, guys, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you guys later.